Cast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Autodesk Premium Subscription webinar. My name is Jasenia. I am the event coordinator here at M2 Technologies. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions, please type them in the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. And a recorded version of this webinar will be available on our website and YouTube channel within a couple of days. You'll receive an email with the link when that's available. So just before we jump into the webinar, I want to introduce M2 Technologies to you all. M2 Technologies is a consulting firm focused on productivity, improving manufacturing process efficiency, and reducing manufacturing costs. Our mission is simple: to help manufacturers design better products and increase market share by leveraging the industry-leading engineering, design, process automation, and data management technologies. Using generative design and best-in-class manufacturing and asset management processes, our team of industry experts can help you become more sustainable, more profitable, and more prepared to meet the demands of urbanization in a rapidly changing world. We're committed to helping clients realize the business benefits of BIM and asset management quickly and economically by facilitating the use of innovative technologies and processes. Whether it's streamlining your product design, maximizing asset longevity, or optimizing your process, our team is one of the most experienced groups of manufacturing technology consulting professionals. We partner with world leaders such as Autodesk, Panzura, and Bluebeam to utilize innovative technologies and methodologies to empower sustainable manufacturing and overcome local challenges. Our vision is to reduce the environmental impact of urbanization by helping the manufacturing industry to design, produce, and operate better projects more efficiently. To help support the industry with these demands, we offer a wide range of services, including BIM for manufacturing, software development, strategic planning, and much, much more. Now, Tristan Gunderson and Brad Horst will jump on to take you through today's webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Jasenia. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining the webinar. My name is Brad Hurst, and I lead a group inside of Microdesk called the CIO Advisory Services Group. And we focus on the IT issues of the day for all the different customers that we have. And it can be everything from servers to networks to mobile or modernization initiatives, as well as strategic planning initiatives. And I wanted to introduce quickly Tristan to you as well. Tristan?
Hi, yeah, I'm Tristan. I'm an applications engineer at M2. We work on offering advice and consulting services to support our sales teams as well as all of our clients.
Thanks, Tristan. Excuse me. So what we're going to do here is introduce the premium subscription offering and kind of the main items that go into that, and that's what you're seeing on the slide here is in terms of the agenda. And I'll just read these off in case there are people listening to this that maybe are looking at it on an iPhone, or can't see the slide, or just listening to it in audio mode. But we're going to talk about centralized purchasing, Autodesk 24/7 live support, user-based usage reporting, single sign-on, a more modern experience overall, new management roles, and then renewals, and in quote snapshots. So next slide. General eligibility: the premium plan offering is available to customers with aggregate subscriptions that exceed generally 50 seats or more. And it kind of assumes that you're already in a single user seat mode. So you'll know, I think if you've talked to your account reps recently, you'll know that there's another program out there for converting multi-user seats ultimately to single user seats. So, we certainly encourage you to kind of sync up with your account reps and get the latest and greatest information on that, so that you know kind of what your options are and kind of what the best fit is for you going forward, so that we can help you really navigate some of these changes. Next slide. So centralized purchasing, and Tristan and I are going to kind of go back and forth. I'm going to introduce kind of the broader ideas and try to put them in the context of a CIO. Most recently, before joining Microdesk, I was the CIO at EYP Architecture and Engineering for the last 10 years. So I've kind of been in the role of maybe some of you that are listening to this call, and a lot of these topics resonate with me. Certainly, I made a point of dealing with licensing issues personally in the CIO role because it was important to me, and often within the licensing topic, it wasn't just about licensing in terms of how it was implemented across the firm. They often offered other types of opportunities around access, and you'll hear about single sign-on and things like that. Yes, in terms of this presentation, it's about the Autodesk environment specifically, but often these types of things can serve as catalysts that can lead to broader, even more important initiatives across the organization that you can really leverage these types of transitions to kind of drive even bigger, better things for the organization. So, but certainly in terms of centralized purchasing, those of you that are larger firms that maybe are multi-territory or multinational firms, you're familiar with the concept of extraterritorial rights and things like that. So the centralized purchasing model really simplifies that whole equation. It allows you to purchase from a single source within the organization rather than dealing with multiple sources depending on if you're in the US, for example, versus the UK versus somewhere else, right? It really kind of consolidates that and simplifies this equation. So the other thing I'll say just kind of generally that I think a lot of these different features apply to is the notion that certainly as IT leaders and possibly BIM leaders in your organization, you're seeing the workforce become kind of more complex and more distributed. Again, certainly in multi-office or even single office firms that are partnering more often with outside parties, things like that. And as a result, from an IT standpoint, it's important that you continue to seek out tools that are more centralized and actually simplify the equation, even though the environment that you're supporting is becoming more distributed and often more complicated. So this speaks to that directly by virtue of its title of being centralized, but kind of keep that theme in mind, I think, as we're talking through this, that this is an opportunity to really make things a lot better for you. And then Tristan will go into kind of a deeper dive into some of these topics here.
All right, so with the centralized purchasing, there are a few restrictions for how it needs to be organized. So first of all, most purchases would be made from the HQ. The HQ must own at least 50% of any subsidiary for them to do purchasing for them. You can have the subsidiaries make purchases for themselves, but the subsidiaries cannot purchase for the parent company or the HQ, or have subsidiaries purchasing for other subsidiaries. But this still allows a very organized structure of having the parent company do all the purchasing across all the subsidiaries. And that way, if you have a smaller branch that isn't eligible for the premium, the parent company can make them eligible by linking them with their other accounts.
Okay, so another feature of this program is Autodesk 24/7 live support. And this is where a customer can connect with an Autodesk specialist for help with technical issues during basically all times, including nights and weekends. And again, I'm kind of reading this off the slide in case some people are listening to this and not really seeing the slide. But again, this is something that resonates with me, certainly. I'm an architect by training. I've been in the industry for several decades at this point, and which gives you a sense of my age. But we all know that things don't always happen in a 9-to-5 kind of organization. That things happen on weekends, they happen kind of late in the day. Again, in large organizations, they're happening in different time zones, right? So increasingly 24/7 support or getting support kind of at the point when you really have the problem and need the help is becoming increasingly important, I think.
So with purchasing the premium subscriptions through M2 Technologies, as well as the Autodesk live support, you also get the priority M2 support. This has some very useful features. We have rapid response, so we will respond within an hour. We're available 12 hours a day, 5 days a week from 8 a.m. Eastern time to 8 p.m. Your company will be given a dedicated email alias so you can communicate directly with us. We have dedicated technical experts on our team that are ready to answer your technical support questions or needs at all times. And it'll give you availability to monthly reporting and analysis to monitoring your cases that are built within calling for tech support. M2 Technologies can also manage user assignment needs using the Autodesk web portal. And all of this priority support is included for free with the premium subscription, which is normally a $500 a month value.
I would just add on that topic that again, a theme that I think you'll see through some of this sort of modernization effort, if you want to think about it like that, it's bringing a lot of the Autodesk suite in terms of how you do authentication and how you make decisions about your products and your services. Right, on the previous slide when Tristan mentioned the idea of sort of an audit log almost of the different types of support issues. Again, that becomes actually pretty useful because all of a sudden now you'll have a much clearer idea of the types of problems you're having. Maybe they're problems in certain parts of the business versus others, right? It really, these are some tools that help you to make some better decisions through data, right? It's data-driven decision-making essentially. So that's actually really useful stuff, and we'll see a little bit more of that in the forthcoming slides. User-based usage reporting actually speaks exactly to that. Certainly firms have some on-prem, license analysis type tools, right, that are third-party that might give you some basic information. But again, the beauty of this is that Autodesk is now reporting on their own file formats and services, right? So they, will have better information about usage at a user level, and that should be able to offer you better insight into kind of who's using what tools, what frequency. You might find that you're investing in one product more than you need to, right, over the course of the year, so that when renewal comes up, you actually have real information at that point to kind of rebalance, where you're investing and how you're investing. So that's the type of information a lot of firms actually don't have easy access to today, or maybe have access to it and it's just not granular enough or maybe meaningful enough.
So if you're watching, you can see a little example of the visuals admins will have within the system, where you can see a breakdown of the different named users, and that's part of the single sign-on users, and what programs they are using and how often they are using them. And so it'll give you the total number of users that have been on recently and the products used. It also will let you know if they are exporting certain file types and what versions of the programs they are using. So if somebody's working with an outdated version from others that could cause an error down the road, you can see that right away.
Yeah, the one thing I actually like about this, Tristan, is when you just mentioned the version that's that's being logged. I mean, that actually would be very useful when it comes time to upgrade, from one version of Revit to another version. It's actually kind of hard internally to figure out which projects are using what version of Revit, for example, so that you can kind of better schedule when and how those project teams migrate forward. So that's a great one. I love that one.
Yeah, and so you can, click on a user to see a closer breakdown of what they are using. Can give you a bit of a timeline of what months they're using different products, kind of give a flow for projects, or you can look at the product themselves and see what people are using that specific version or that product. Continue on here.
Yep. Single sign-on. This is a great feature, actually. So some of you are probably familiar with the concept of single sign-on, and certainly from a user standpoint, in essence, it means having to remember fewer username and passwords. I mean, that's really kind of the end game from a user standpoint. Certainly, that's becoming increasingly a larger issue if you haven't already implemented, a third-party single sign-on solution across your organization. You might be hearing from users as you move to cloud services how they have to remember too many username and passwords. So this again is an important modernization initiative, I would say, from an Autodesk standpoint. For those who have been with the Autodesk suite for a while, this is great to see this kind of come into the fold. It sort of brings it in line with other tools that you might be using, like Office 365 or G Suite or Adobe Creative Cloud. Some of those already have some of these types of features, and so again, it would be nice to why not remember one username and password for a handful of cloud services versus having to remember different username and password for each of those. So this is a great one, I think.
So setting up the single sign-on accounts, the first thing that's important is you need to have a domain for everyone in your company who is going to be using sign-on. Of course, most companies already have this. At M2, we of course have all of our emails at m2t.com. So when you have that domain, which most companies will have with an email, then you are able to configure the single sign-on. You then will go through a setup, the single sign-on with Autodesk, and you then we'll want to test it, make sure it's working well, and eventually we'll get to the point where you can connect it and assign the users. Now, all of this is, if it's something that you find difficult or you are confused by, of course, we have plenty of support at M2. We can help walk through you every stage of this process. And ultimately, having the single sign-on will give you, within, like Brad mentioned, within each person, it makes it easier because they have less passwords to remember. But for the company as a whole, as we mentioned earlier, it gives better visibility into what people are doing and what products are being used and where things are being inefficient, where you need more seats of a product, where you might need less seats. It gives a lot of statistics to allow you to better use your products. So you can see here, once you have the single sign-on set up, you'll sign in just with the company email and be able to log in to your Autodesk account using your email. It's relatively easy to set up, and it creates a much more centralized access for all of your employees. Brad, do you have anything you'd like to add on this?
Yeah, just to add one other aspect of single sign-on that I think a lot of people don't think about. Again, think about single sign-on as not, yes, we're talking about the Autodesk suite here, but single sign-on offers an opportunity internally to kind of launch a program around, simplifying the environment, consolidating, things like username and passwords, making things more accessible to the user base. Right? There's a lot of sort of adjacent modernization initiatives that you can use that you can drive forward as a result of some of these types of initiatives. The other thing I'll add, actually from a security standpoint, that's nice about single sign-on is that you're centralizing access to a broader, potentially a broad range of services and applications, such that as people come and go from the organization, if you were fully implemented on single sign-on, you would remove their credentials or add their credentials in one location, and you would know that they would either have or not have access to, the sum total of all of your environment. Again, that's under a fully single sign-on enabled environment. Right now, we're just talking about the Autodesk products, which is a very significant part of many of your environments. But who's to say that this doesn't then launch a broader program around, G Suite or Trimble or whatever other types of tools you happen to be using. They could ultimately be brought into that same single sign-on fold over time. Certainly, the group that I manage, we can work with this stuff with you and help you develop programs along these lines. So yes, we're talking about specific product sets in this case and the advantages of that, how they're becoming kind of a part of a more modern work environment, but they also have broader implications that are yours to leverage if you choose to do so. So.
Yeah, and speaking on security, it also allows you to use your company's authenticating system when logging in, so you can have that next level of security within your Autodesk account.
Yeah, and a perfect example of that is actually the mention of Active Directory here. So many of you probably have Active Directory on-premise. You might also have what's called Azure Active Directory, which is what drives Office 365. In certain cases, you've already tied those two together to create a single sign-on experience for on-prem as well as Office 365 in the cloud. So this is a logical way that you can now add the Autodesk toolkit into that same single sign-on equation, right? It's a perfect fit. And so I think we can expect maybe down the road that even though we don't know details yet or specifics, there'll be more development certainly around Active Directory and group sync and what the implications of that can be in terms of further automating and simplifying the environment. So this is a multi-layered sort of stepped process, right, that will happen over time, but these first steps are actually very important that lay out the foundations for these things.
So within it, of course, the format within Autodesk for managing the users will change a bit as the modern version of it for using the single sign-on. However, they also have a classic user management tab if you want to use a more traditional method for looking at your users. So one important part of managing the roles is creating a secondary admin. So secondary admin will be able to manage users and control accounts, but can have more limited access than the primary. One service that we offer is we allow you to add secondary admin at m2t.com as a secondary admin. This gives our tech and sales team the ability to help you with managing users and gives us visibility into what products are being used if you need support with those systems. Because there can only be one primary admin, and they will be able to manage the secondary admins and all the other users. And then the secondary admin will be directly below them. And so any contract managers will be initially assigned as a secondary admin. So right here we can see a small breakdown. We have two admins. We have Jeff, who controls the San Francisco and New York hubs. So the New York hub by itself at only 30 subscriptions wouldn't be eligible for premium, but by putting it in with the San Francisco hub, which has 50, it brings up to 80 premium subscriptions. Denver has 60 subscriptions, so it is eligible for the premium on its own. However, you can use the centralized purchasing to bring these all together under one roof, having Jeff take the place as the primary admin with Carl as a secondary admin above the Denver group. This way, instead of having 80 subscriptions for one team and 60 for the other team, you can have Jeff control all 140 subscriptions in one system. It allows for a lot more connection between different branches and really utilizes the centralized purchasing without losing Carl's position as an admin within Denver. Lastly, just want to touch on the 2-for-1 offer. This is the offer for you to trade in one seat of the multi-user for 2 seats of the single sign-on users. The offer for right now, multi-user licenses are only available until August 7th. At that point, all renewals will have to be switched out of multi-user licenses. So using this deal is a great way to get your use out of your multi-user, so you're not losing seats in the switch. And 2-for-1 is the recommended by Autodesk amount for how many single sign-on users you would want for each multi-user seat. So if you have, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, if you have any questions for us, or you want to talk to any sales rep, you can always contact us at m2t.com, our email, or by calling our direct line.
And I would just also encourage you to always, many of you probably have a very close relationship with your account reps as well. A lot of this stuff is changing very quickly, as you might imagine, in kind of a cloud-based fashion. So they will always have kind of the latest and greatest information on kind of what's changed recently or what's forthcoming. So please feel free to do that as well. I would just close out by saying, I mean, from my standpoint, a lot of these features that we're talking about or updates that we're talking about are really welcome things from an IT standpoint. You see things like named user licenses, single sign-on, features like that really speak to bringing the Autodesk suite of products in line with what you're doing already with some of the other modern applications like Office 365 and Adobe and so forth. And for those of you that have struggled over the years with multi-user and license servers and things like that, going to named user is so much better, I think, and it gives your users a lot more self-service, frankly, which takes more load, takes load off of the support side of the equation for the IT group, and it really kind of enables and empowers the workforce. I think it allows you to, if it's not obvious, it's worth saying that these types of updates that you're seeing really activate your investment in the Autodesk tools, such that now not only can you access these things more easily on-prem, but you can also access them more easily when remote, working from home, working in the field, wherever you happen to be. These things become a lot easier to use, a lot easier to leverage and access. So I think that's no small thing. That's actually a really important component of how we see Autodesk modernizing this environment. So on that note, we thank you for your time and look forward to working with you guys on your next efforts here. So thank you very much.